I'm Tracy Bingaman. I'm a full-time working mom of 5 who got sick, burned out, quit my job, and now I teach women how to mom smarter, not harder. The pressures of modern motherhood are intense. You're a busy working mom juggling all the balls and living in fear of dropping the exact wrong one. Here you'll find the tools you've been searching for to confidently prioritize your life and optimize your ability to rock all the hats that you choose to wear. I'll show you how to break through your limiting beliefs so you'll have more time and more money than you know what to do with. Because even in the busiest seasons of life, you can grow to master your money, own your time, and be the mom with all the margin. This is Fulfilled as a Mom. Today on Fulfilled as a Mom, we have a special guest, Samantha Stewart. Samantha is an entrepreneur and coach, and she guides her clients to take control of their future, to prioritize their time and relationships so they can confidently step out of their comfort zone and flourish in all aspects of their life. We're going to talk about unpacking your purpose and some of your limiting beliefs, how you handle money, and how you go about your life, and really channeling what matters most to you and figuring out how to find that purpose, whether it's inside of your work or outside of your work and in your life. I can't wait to share this conversation with Samantha with you. So without further ado, here she is, Samantha Stewart. If you are looking to connect with other moms on a quest to find fulfillment, head on over and join our exclusive community on Facebook, the Fulfilled Moms Club, where you'll find support, all the mom hacks, and the warm embrace of knowing that you are not alone in your struggles. It's the mom groups where positivity reigns, you can bounce ideas off other moms, and share your own knowledge, tips, and tricks with others. We'd love to have you join us. The link is waiting for you in the show notes. All right. So Samantha, welcome to the show. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you?
Hi, Tracy. Thanks for having me today. Absolutely. My name is Samantha Stewart, and I am a certified master life coach. I have been mentoring for 20-something years now, and I work strictly with women on figuring out why they are stressed out, why they're burnt out, and why they're out of balance so that they can truly live the lives that they desire.
Awesome. That is so in alignment with what I do.
It seems like something that all women are struggling with these days. And I know for myself, especially as a mother, I feel like I have to 10x that.
Yeah, I think there's something about motherhood that sort of ratchets up that stress level and feeling like you have to be doing all the things for all the people and all the places. So I wanted to start by talking about purpose and career. And you're working with your clients. Do you feel like someone's purpose is necessarily the same as their career?
Not necessarily. In some cases, we are fortunate enough to have our careers also be what our passion work is or what our purpose is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be one and the same. Many times, your career is something that allows you to do your purpose work, something that affords you the opportunity to be able to do that. The main difference, I would say, is that it really depends on what you feel called to do. So, as an example, I have a client that I'm working with, and she's a doctor, actually a surgeon, and she knows that she was put here to do this work. That's something that's very near and dear to her heart, and she's also one of the best in the industry. However, she also knows that she was called here to work with children. She is not a pediatric surgeon. So her calling and her career are two very, very different things. But the ability to work with children, she can do that because of the career she has. She has the ability at this stage in her life to set her hours, to set her time, and to be very, very specific about whom she's going to work with, when she's going to work with them, so that she can carve out the time to do some of the other things that really matter to her as well.
So, if someone's listening and they're feeling a little lost, like they have a job and they're not sure if that is in fact something that they're really that passionate about, or they're doing it by default, or they're not sure what their purpose is, where is a good place for that person to start and sort of investigating, figuring out their purpose?
Yeah, that is a great question. And it's something I get asked all the time. So, the one thing that I would say is if you're having difficulty getting some clarity on what your passions are, on what you feel that you were put on this earth to do, the first thing I would say is, are there times or places that you can think of when you felt most in touch with who you are? And is there a way that in the life you're living today, you can recreate that? So if you're someone who's a busy C-suite executive and you get up early in the morning, you're making lunches for kids, you're getting the kids to school, and then you're off to work and it's meeting, 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 and then it's go pick up the kids, dinner, get the kids to bed, crash into bed because you're so exhausted. If you're someone who operates like that, you're probably not giving yourself enough space to hear yourself think. And so, what I would suggest is to find opportunities where you can create a little bit of space for yourself, even if you're just starting with 5 minutes. So, if you know that you have a meeting that's going to be, let's say it's a 5 minute walk, you've got to go from one section of the company headquarters to the other. Give yourself an extra 5 minutes so that for the first 5 minutes of that, you can really just hear yourself think. You can start to give yourself that flexibility and that opening for information to come in. And then you can spend the other 5 minutes thinking about what you need to be on point for that meeting. And what you're doing is, if you do this long enough, over time, you're developing a habit. You're creating a new neuro pathway in your brain so that every time you go to book this meeting, you're absolutely going to block off that extra time in your calendar. And you'll start with the 5 minutes, increase it to 10 minutes to 15. And then pretty soon you're giving yourself the ability where now maybe you have 20 minutes and you can actually take the elevator downstairs and you can go for a short walk so that you can start to get some clarity. So these are things to start thinking about. And if you can't create that type of a space, I would encourage you to first start thinking about, where can I? How can I start incorporating this into my day? Even in the most minuscule moment, you can start to do that and you can start to create the habit.
And so it's not necessarily that you have to throw out your career if you realize that that thing isn't what you feel this clarity is sharing with you or showing you that your purpose is.
Please don't. Please don't throw out your career. For most of us women, I think that there's this huge push in society right now where it's like you discover your purpose, you discover your passion, and it's like throw everything else out. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, okay? Let's just give yourself a moment. First of all, let's celebrate that you know what you're here to do, that you recognize that you've gotten in touch with that. And then let's take a moment, let's take a pause and really start to think about, what do you want to do with that? Now that you know what you're here to be doing, it doesn't mean that you have to change everything else in the rest of your life. But what it does mean is, now that you have that clarity, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to do something that's going to bring you closer to your faith, that's going to bring you closer to who you are as a human being and the work that you're here to do. But you don't have to quit your job. You don't have to leave your relationships. You don't have to move to another country. You certainly can, but that's never what I advocate for. What I advocate for is, let's build a bridge from where you are today to where you want to go. And let's be very thoughtful about the way to do that. And I'll tell you why. If you go in and you quit your job, you change the relationship, you move, I'm just going to, change my entire life. I'm going to go around India for 3 months and do eat, love, pray. Well, you can certainly do that. However, when you make decisions like that, the first thing that's going to rise up and meet you is fear. And if you're not prepared for that, it can be incredibly debilitating. It can also take you completely off your path. And rather than moving in the direction closer to your purpose that you intended, you actually can backtrack even further. Where if you stay where you are and you just give yourself a little bit of time, you'll become more and more clear with every single decision you make. And I'm always advocating slow down to speed up. That's always the best way to get to where you want to go as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, that once you figure it out, you don't have to radically change all of the things. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into that fear aspect. So you have shared with me that you help your clients step out of their comfort zone, and in doing so, to help them flourish. So why do we have to get out of our comfort zone? Why can't we sort of flourish and thrive in the spaces that we're already existing, the ones where we don't feel fear, where we already feel comfortable?
That is a very good question. And I think that we are very blessed, first of all, to be able to live in situations where we have the things that are comfortable to us. We have things that are known. We have things that we can depend on. And I think that the challenge with that is it's comfortable to a point where it almost becomes a trap. You start to lose parts of yourself. You start to lose parts of who you are. You're not really living authentically into all of the spaces that are who you are because you're so comfortable. And I know that that's an unpopular opinion. I recognize that. However, the other thing that I would say is that in the discomfort is the opportunity for growth. And as women, especially, we're constantly wanting to think about, what is that next challenge? What is that next thing that I can do? If you're a parent, aren't you always looking for, what can I do to help my child continue to grow? What's the next skill set that I can look at for them? Are they going to do a basketball camp? Are we going to do gymnastics? So if you think about that in terms of our children and the way we're raising them, we really are trying to instill in them that we want to always be trying new things. We always want to be thinking about, is there a new skill set that I can develop? Yet somehow as adults, we start to really lose that. And I think that it really is detrimental to who we are as people. And we're telling ourselves we're comfortable. We're telling ourselves we don't want to be uncomfortable, when the reality is that in order to continue living, you have to go through these cycles of discomfort. It's just an absolute necessity. Otherwise, you live a very stagnant life.
So, a lot of the listeners of this show are moms of young kids who they're working, they're raising their kids. And I think that society has fed us this line that once you have kids, your needs, your desires, the things that matter to you, the things that fill you up, the things that are uniquely you and kind of authentically you, matter less than the pursuit of raising your kids, to getting them out of the house, to taking care of them. So, what do you have to say to that mom who is kind of treading water in this season of motherhood where she says, they matter and they're only young once, and we have all these things that we tell ourselves as to why our needs and our desires are less important during this season?
I think that it feels good to society to say that to us as mothers. It's in all of the books that we read, whether you're looking at early childhood development and how to raise, a baby or a toddler or a young adolescent, or you're reading the books while you're pregnant. That line is pretty consistently in almost every single chapter. And I think it's a feel good thing for society to say, put the focus on the children, take the focus off of the mother. However, if we don't focus on ourselves, I guess the best way to illustrate this, the thought that I always have before I jump into that is, When you're on an airplane and they tell you, put your oxygen mask on first, it's really not any different than what we're talking about here. If you as a mother are so ingrained in your children that you lose yourself, how is that going to affect your children? What are you teaching your sons or your daughters? What you're teaching them is that their needs don't matter. Their desires don't matter. Their passions don't matter. You're teaching them the opposite of filling up their cup so that they can continue to pour into others. And I know that's a bit counterculture and a bit counterintuitive to what we're being told, but if you stop to think about it, it makes an awful lot of sense. How many times as a mom, especially when you have infants or young kids who are still in diapers and you're really, really struggling to find that time for yourself, that is a very difficult period. And there are going to be times in motherhood when you do sort of have to set yourself aside for a period of time. But that shouldn't be all the time. Because if you continue doing that for too long, that's when you get sick. You can get things like mastitis when you're breastfeeding. You can run down your immune system to the point where you're catching anything and everything that your children are bringing home. And if the mother of the family goes down, and that's the person who's the primary caregiver for the kids or who takes on the bulk of that responsibility and is working and is doing things around the house, everything will come to a screeching halt. We don't want that. You don't want that as a mother. I don't want that as a woman or as a mother. So it's very, very important that we find ways to incorporate who we are, to continue to be who we are, to continue to fill ourselves up while we're raising children. If you were very athletic before you had children, let's not give that up. Let's find different ways to include the children in that. You can put them in the stroller. You can put one on the pack. You may not go out and go for a 5-mile run or a 10-mile run, but you can certainly go out and go for a mile walk with the kids. And you just start incorporating them into the things that are important to you so they can start to think about as they're growing up, oh, my mom takes really great care of herself and what she's showing me. Now, this is all subconscious for the kids, of course. They're not thinking about it in the younger ages, but as they get older, that imprint will be there. So we're really teaching them, we're really being a phenomenal mother because we're pouring into ourselves.
I think that's so important, and so much more is caught than taught. So if we're doing it and we're showing them that we matter and that the things that we enjoy matter and we incorporate them into it, then it's not just saying, self-care is important and you should do what, brings you joy, but actually doing those things and showing them that those things matter and bringing them into it so that they get to see you enjoying the outdoors or getting that exercise or taking good care of your body or reading a book that you enjoy while they play. Because you're right, if we model those things, then we're saying to the next generation, this is how I'm showing up well for me, even though I'm taking care of you while I'm doing it. And that is so valuable. All right. So I want to talk. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. So I want to talk about prioritizing our time. So you work with people on kind of setting boundaries with work and creating time for pursuing this passion if their passion and purpose happen to be outside the bounds of what they do for a job where they make money and provide for their family. So our audience is comprised of, as I said before, these busy working moms who feel pretty strapped for time. So how can we stop feeling like that? How can we reframe the way that we see our time and feel like we have more of it, even while we're still doing all the things?
I think the first thing that I would say about that, Tracy, is to get really clear about your priorities, because being busy and doing things that are important are actually two different things. And I think, especially as women, we convince ourselves that when we're busy, we're doing all of the things. Where if you stop and think about what really are my priorities? What are the things that are important to me? What are the things that are important to me as a mother raising young children? What are the priorities for the family? And you start to peel back these layers. I think it becomes pretty clear very quickly what you should be spending your time on. And it almost feels like magic in a sense, because the clearer you get about what you care about, what your priorities are, all of a sudden many of the things that you're spending your time on become less important, and you start to view them through the lens of, I only have this many hours in a day to do this many things. And if my top 3 priorities are this, how does each one of these activities fit into each one of those buckets? And if they don't fit into one of those buckets, or they don't fit into something that's important to you, it all of a sudden becomes very easy to say no. And so I would say that's a big part of it. Know your priorities. The other piece of it is that we're programmed to want to say yes and to people please. And I think that that is such a time suck as well. If you're constantly saying yes, even if you open up your mouth and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I do not want to participate in any more bake sales. I don't want to buy any more Girl Scout cookies. And yet you open your mouth and it's like, I'll take 10 more of the Thin Mint boxes. And in your mind is screaming at you saying, you don't even like those. You're gluten intolerant. Why do you keep doing this? So really giving yourself that opportunity to know what your priorities are, so that you can make it that much easier on yourself to have to justify why you're saying yes. Take a pause when somebody asks you if you can volunteer for something, if you want to do something, if there's a play date that somebody's trying to schedule. Just take a moment and give yourself the opportunity to think about that and compare that to the list of things that you care about and how that fits in and whether or not it makes sense. Really start to flip that mindset of, I don't have to say yes to everything. I have to justify to myself why I'm saying yes, rather than having to justify why you're saying no. And if you can turn that around, it really becomes so much easier to say, no, thank you. I'm not able to do that right now. That's not going to work out in my schedule. Thanks so much for thinking about me. Maybe we can check in on it next time. It's that pattern, that habit starts to develop, and it becomes easier and easier every time we do it.
I love that, flipping the script as having the default answer being no and having to justify your yes. Because for my entire life, the default answer has been yes, unless I have an excuse or a reason or some particular thing that makes it a no. And it's a lot of pressure. And you feel like first you have to justify it to yourself, and then you have to justify it to the person who's asking you. Like, I can't come to drinks with you because I have XYZ going on. Like, why do we feel like we have to do that? Why can't we just say, no, I'm not available? Like, you could be not available and going home to read a book, and you are equally not as available. You don't have to tell them why. And if you start, it's almost like you build the boundary around your time. You're protecting your time. And if you're gonna give it away, you have to say, like, this really matters to me. This is in alignment with my values. I think this is worth my time. I think the cause is worth it. I want to support it. And then comes the yes, not the other way around, where it's automatically a yes. And you kind of have to drag the no along. And it takes a lot of brain power and a lot of effort. And then you maybe feel guilty for the no, as opposed to sort of being the no is the default. It's such a protective mechanism. What would life look like if you could finally get out of survival mode, consistently find time for yourself, and be the calm, present mom you've always wanted to be? My friend Catherine Wild, best-selling author of Reclaiming Your Inner Sparkle, life coach, and the founder of Soul Care Mom, is passionate about helping women just like you to feel calm and find their unshakable confidence as moms. Imagine reconnecting with the amazing woman you are, being calm and present, and creating space for the things that you love. In her membership, Vibrant Mom Life, you'll find monthly themes that will help you shift your mindset, get out of survival mode, and find time for yourself, all while being the mom you want to be. Plus, you'll find guided meditations and yoga practices to help you infuse your days with self-care. Some days are just harder than others, and Catherine provides a library of short and sweet guided affirmations so you can press play and reconnect with your inner calm in minutes. Follow the link in the show notes to join today and stop running on empty and truly start enjoying your mom life. All right, so if people want to connect with you more, to learn more about you and your coaching and your teaching, where can they go online to find and learn more about you and your services?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spend most of my time in the social media world on Instagram, and you can find me there at Samantha Stewart Official. You could also go to my website, which is samanthastewart.life. And if your listeners are interested in a worksheet that I've created, it helps you get clarity on where you currently are, where your passions are, and gets you to that next step of finding your purpose. And I will give you a link that you can give to your listeners. So anybody that's listening on this show, if that's something that you're struggling with, feel free to reach out to me and I will send this over to you.
Awesome. Great. I'll include that in the show notes. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you for sharing your wisdom and for giving people sort of the permission and for helping them to feel empowered that they can control their time and find the time to pursue things that help them to feel passionate and really feel invigorated about their life. Because I think being exhausted and wearing busy like a badge of honor is so overrated. And you and I are both working to kind of topple that mindset and help moms to feel just better and like they're living a life that really matters to them. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing your time and your wisdom with us today.
Thank you for having me, Tracy.
I'm doing a victory dance right now because you did it. You took the time to tune in, to reach for a better life, and to take care of you. Did our time together go by way too fast for anyone else? Head to fulfilledasamom.com for show notes and all the discount codes from today's show. You now have the tools and knowledge to change your life. Go blaze your trail, take that step, make the shift, and do the work to create fulfillment in your life today.